Quick little video here for my buddy Tony. He asked a question the other day on LinkedIn of where should SDRs and BDRs sit? Are they better served inside a sales organization or inside the marketing organization? And I know that for many organizations going through this change, there's a struggle of where should I put my team? Do they make more sense here? Do they make more sense there? And what I can tell you is this: where an SDR and BDR team is best serviced to sit is wherever the organization could get the most out of them. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, here's what I mean. What I mean is if you're a sales-led organization that can invest in the time and resources and pieces that the BDRs and SDRs need in order to be effective at their job, not just table setting and scheduling demos, but actually being effective at having quality early conversations, developing talk tracks, having slicks, but having it line up to where a prospect is at in the stage of the process that they're in, then they absolutely should sit in sales. Especially as most organizations look at the SDR and the BDR as a sales bench. Now, what I'm going to tell you though is the sales skills you need to be an SDR and a BDR are different than what you need to be an account rep or an account manager. Those skills are often not developed by an SDR or BDR, even though that's the intent for them inside of the sales organization. If you're not going to develop your people, then the best place for the SDR and BDR to sit is actually inside the marketing organization. And here's why. From a conversation continuity and giving an excellent experience to your customers, balancing inbound and outbound campaigns through demand gen efforts, focused marketing, and then consistent messaging, the group that owns that isn't sales. The group that owns that is actually marketing. And so for SDRs and BDRs, with a strong marketing leader and a strong manager of SDRs and BDRs, you can create continuity and consistency for your SDRs, your BDRs, and your entire sales process from the top of the funnel all the way through to close. How does that work? Well, here's the things that you need to have. For your SDRs, your BDRs, they absolutely need to be trained in what the product does, how it fits in the market, and ultimately what are they trying to move the prospect to. That's the first goal. They've got to understand what their job is and what they're trying to achieve. The second thing that you need is you need alignment between where a prospect is at in the funnel and how your sales reps have been, or your BDRs and team have been trained. Not every single person is going to want a demo right away. If I go to a webinar and that webinar is general information about what's happening for my business or what's happening in the industry, that person doesn't necessarily need a demo of your product. But what your SDRs and BDRs do need to be understanding is where does this fit in the ecosystem? If you haven't trained them and aren't having that conversation, they're not going to be effective. And what you're going to hear is I'm frustrated with marketing. My marketing leadership doesn't understand what I need. I don't get what I need from my leadership. Well, if you're not getting what you need from your leadership, that means you're busted in how you're communicating what it is and where it's at. I've got some guides that I use that work really well. And what it is what is this event, or what is this piece of collateral? What is the synopsis, just the overview of it? What are the key questions? And what is likely to be the next question or the next sequential thought, 2 or 3 of them, that somebody might take? So how can the SDR, BDR provide value beyond just the initial conversation? Well, if I had a webinar, as an example, on why it rains on Sundays, maybe the next logical question is where's the cheapest umbrellas on Sundays, right? There may be a guide that you've gotten built. You need to think through the sequence of things, and your BDRs and SDRs need to understand that as it fits moving through the funnel. The third thing that's critical to creating success for marketing to run an SDR or BDR team is compensation model. You absolutely have to incentivize the behavior that you want. If you want the behavior of, say, hey, outbound prospecting and cold calling, but we want X number of demos set, then the numbers and the metrics that they're being managed to, the way they're being incentivized and compensated, needs to be focused on that. If your goal is to have a contact rate or a connect rate that's high, or a demo rate that's set high. The instrumentation for the SDR and BDR needs to be tied very, very closely in their compensation model with what the expected outcome is. It is not fair to an SDR or BDR for you to say, hey, here's a bunch of webinar leads, turn it into a demo, when the very next step is not a demo. It's a bad experience for your customer or prospect, and it's a bad experience for your SDR or BDR. It's the quickest way to burn them out. Now, if you're giving them inbound leads and they're in a stage of the funnel where they're expected to convert at a rate, then give them something to help convert, help them pull through. It's give, get. The compensation model needs to align with the expected behavior. And for a lot of marketing organizations, they just think about leads, qualified leads. Some organizations will think about MQL, SQL, SAL, etc. The reality is incentivize the behavior, incentivize the outcome, incentivize the behavior. When you incentivize the behavior, the outcomes tend to take care of themselves. We all know that sales is just simply a mathematic formula. Getting the right number of leads in, the right number of calls against it, and the right number of demos will ultimately lead to a sale of your product. Make sure you're getting the inputs right and you're measuring the inputs. The outputs should take care of themselves. So that's my response, Tony. Where should it sit? It should sit where SDRs and BDRs are going to get the most help, where they're going to understand it the most, but they absolutely, positively must be supported by whatever group they're in, and they need to have somebody who's either been there, done that, or at least understands the career progression that's going to happen with the SDR and BDRs so that your team is set up for success.